Good afternoon, everybody. It is Sunday, October 15th at 3:34 p.m. And I am having, there we go. Looks like it's okay. I apologize for the truncated video. It looks like it's not exactly the way I'd like it to be. But we're going to deal with it. Let me know how the audio sounds if you're tuning in live, and I do appreciate you tuning in live, especially in the wake of what happened yesterday as Purdue falls, 41-7, and falls to 2-5 on the season. Purdue enters the bye week in desperate need of the bye week. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Sorry for the video quality again. It looks like my video has shrunk, and I can't figure out why. But I am traveling. I'm on the road. It is fall break time in central Indiana, and my kids and family and I are all deep in SEC country like we are once a year. And this time we finished our drive yesterday right as Purdue was getting underway versus Ohio State. And much like you guys, we rushed to the TV to rush to a nice spot where we had actually rooted Purdue on to victory versus Iowa a couple years ago. We figured that was the missing link. That was what Purdue really needed to get over the hump versus Ohio State, and of course that was not the case. I'll talk a little bit about what I thought about the game here in a second, but first let me thank our sponsors. Thanks to AJ's. When you're on campus, head over to AJ's on Vine, and before you go there, go to eataj's.com. Order some of their delicious pub fare and a pint of your favorite beer. They have a lot of beers on tap, and they got some of the nicest people there to help you. That's eataj's.com. And of course, go over to Home Field Apparel if you're looking for something new, a new piece of retro Purdue gear, something new, something retro, something borrowed, something black and gold. Enter Boiled23 at checkout, and you'll get 15% off of your first purchase. Thanks to our pals at AJ's and Home Field alike. Like I said, I apologize for the slightly different audio and video conditions, but I did want to give my thoughts, for nothing else, just so we could commiserate a bit about what we all felt during that game. And I think what many Purdue fans, myself included, felt during that game was, when can this one be over, and how soon can they get off the field without having any major injuries? Sadly, they weren't able to avoid major injuries. They had injuries to two more offensive linemen go down to an already thin offensive line, Griffin and Musa this time. We don't know how serious they both are. I think Griffin's is more serious. Musa might be playing in 2 weeks versus Nebraska, it looks like, according to what Coach Walt had to say after the game. If you listen to the post-game comments like I did, you didn't hear a guy that sounded completely defeated, but you did hear a guy that's well aware of how far Purdue has to go before they can be considered anywhere close to in the class of Ohio State, or in the class of the upper third of the Big Ten. And Purdue showed they don't belong there right now. The play calling, offensive play calling, which has been a sticking point for me all season, continues to be an issue. It was unimaginative. It was uninventive. But in defense of Graham Harrell, Purdue is banged up and beaten up right now, specifically, like I said, the offensive line. And without an offensive line, it's going to be hard to do much. According to Coach Walt, Card came into the game feeling a little bit better than he had last week coming into the Iowa game. He looked it in the presser. He didn't look as physically beaten up. But he really needs this off week. And so do a lot of guys on the team. Obviously, Tyrone Tracy, maybe getting him back for Nebraska would be a big deal. But who knows if he'll be healthy enough to play Nebraska. To quote Scott Frost a couple years ago, I think Nebraska looks at Purdue as a winnable game. When you look at it on paper, these two teams are about as even as two teams can be. I think Nebraska physically is a lot stronger than Purdue. I think they got legit Big Ten size. They've got a lot of athletes on the field. Purdue right now is just trying to bandage together, patchwork together what they have. And it's the state of things for Purdue's offense specifically is pretty rough. On the other side of the ball, Purdue was not able to stop Ohio State really at all. Ohio State could run the ball. Ohio State could pass the ball. Specifically passing the ball, the funny thing is McCord is not that great of a passer. He's a guy that I think you should make him have to prove it to you. And what he did, especially early in the game, he pretty much just targeted one guy, and Purdue couldn't counter it. Purdue couldn't stop Marvin Harrison Jr., who's an absolute beast. And then they started spreading around a little bit as the game went on. But the game was well in hand at the half and didn't get any better in the second half. Purdue had problems on defense, on offense, and on special teams. I think they missed 2 field goals. Those field goals didn't really make much of a difference in the real grand scheme of things or how the game was going to be played. But at the same time, it's really lousy to see a team missing field goals. It's really rough to see that. So if I were going to say what are some of the negative things about this game, of course, the way Purdue was dominated is probably the biggest negative. It's the toughest thing to swallow, especially since Purdue has played well versus Ohio State historically. I think Ryan Day had no time for the idea of giving Purdue life as and also ran. He wanted to make a statement. He surely did. I think he wanted to shut Purdue out. He wasn't able to do it. To his chagrin, Purdue scored 7 points, 7 big points. But the personnel discrepancy, like I said earlier, was extremely obvious on all sides of the field. And the injuries are the worst part of the thing for me, not the loss, but the injuries in the offensive line. This is my biggest fear going into the next stretch of games after the bye week. I really didn't want to see Purdue come out too banged up, and they are pretty banged up. A real positive. If you want to come up with real positives, one thing was really cool, especially in garbage time in the second half. You got to see Marshawn Rice have 3 receptions. Jerron Tibbs, the Cathedral product of Indianapolis, had a catch, and so did Elijah Canyon from Auburn. Those are all really nice things to see, and it's something that Purdue's going to need to find some answers on. Who can be a weapon on the outside specifically right now? Burks is the guy. After that, there's not a whole bunch happening. Purdue needs to figure some things out in a quick hurry. One of the best things, of course, statistically and in reality, was Devin Maccabee's performance. 18 carries, 110 yards, 6.1 yards a carry. He was solid all day. He's a good starting back. That's quite a luxury Purdue has. If Purdue has one luxury on this lineup, it's the fact that when the number 1 running back goes down, when Tyrone Tracy goes down, Purdue has Devin Maccabee right behind him, and hopefully that 1-2 combination can come back quickly, because Downing, the drop off from Maccabee to Downing is pretty noteworthy, and Downing's fine. He's got some weapons. He can do some things, but you really need Tracy's punch right coming to start the game, and then you need to have Maccabee coming off the bench there, or vice versa. It really doesn't matter. Their style, though, they can both play Big Ten ball. They're both good starting style backs, but that was a rough game. I don't know if there's much to say other than, like I said, when you look at Nebraska, ESPN's game predictor has it as a 50-50 game, a coin flip. I guarantee you Nebraska fans think this is going to be a slam dunk. I just feel that way, knowing Nebraska fans for who they are and what they have been historically. But Nebraska is a 3-3 team, so a slight edge over Purdue with their biggest win, their most quality win, coming against the mighty Illinois Fighting Illini. I think they beat them 20-7, something like that, 21-7. Didn't beat up on them like Purdue did, but they did beat them. They did handle their business there. Nebraska has not looked great this year. Nebraska is having a hard time in the transition to the Matt Rule era. But the big picture thing here, if you care about bowl games, which, like I said, I do care about bowl games because I care about the extra practice time. That's my biggest story of the bowl game, of this era of low priority bowl games, if you will. I think the practice is key, especially for a team like Purdue who's trying to figure some things out with the roster in the longer view for next year. So I want them to get to a bowl, but they've got 5 games to win 4. And one of them, of course, is versus one of the best teams in America, University of Michigan. I don't feel good at all about that game, but I do think specifically Northwestern, IU, Minnesota, they have looked bad much of the season. IU got just absolutely mollywomped versus Michigan yesterday. They were showing a little bit of life in the second quarter before Michigan just slammed the door shut. And that was it. Purdue, I don't think ever really had even that much life versus Ohio State, even though the score wasn't quite as bad as IU's loss to Michigan. Purdue looked worse than IU did somehow. And I think IU lost 50-something to 7. But at one point, I think it was 7-7 or 14-7 in the IU-Michigan game. Regardless, they didn't look very good. Purdue has 3 games versus teams that I don't think are very good. A 4th game versus Nebraska, who, while they're not down as much as those other 3 three teams right now, simply because of personnel. I gotta hit that idea once again. I think Nebraska's personnel, their athletes, are still very good. That really has never changed. Even in the bad Scott Frost years, they still had big, strong guys. They still had guys who were highly touted recruits, guys that look the part in their uniform, if you will. And so for that reason, they're always a threat to me, but they're not a very good team. So I think those 4 games, Purdue has a legit shot of earning some victories and maybe, just maybe, edging their way to 6 wins and getting those important practices before the bowl game. A couple of you guys are tuned in live. Really appreciate that. Jim Garfunkel's here. He's the one who said it sounded good early. He says, Harold's air raid play calling makes me keep air sickness bags. Yeah, the play calling is no doubt. I told you guys during the Handsome Hour last week that I didn't feel good about Harold as a play caller at all, and I have just not much hope to see that change. To me, Harold looks like a guy who believes his one-on-ones can beat their one-on-ones, and everything's fine in his system if that happens. The problem is you're asking for Purdue's ones to beat Big Ten ones right now. Not all the Purdue players are ready to be Big Ten ones, and they are all being called on to do that. Obviously, Devin Mockabee is a guy that can make a guy miss and can get to the second or even the third level against a defense. And he's shown it because of his unorthodox running style, his aggressive play. Mockabee is legit a guy who's a threat, as is Burks, but I think Burks is a little banged up right now. So then you get into the point where, okay, who's going to be the next guy to make the play and step up? And somebody has to do it. And I don't think Harold's offense is putting Purdue in the position where there's any mismatches. There's not a lot of misdirection. Those things are the ways that Purdue teams have historically thrived. That, and of course, quarterback play. It's a great neutralizer. And Purdue, I don't think Card is being put in the position to succeed. So that's just my opinion on the whole situation. Mohol 93 said the Illini beat Maryland. It reminds me of that. And yeah, that was a shocking one to me. It reminds me of what Maryland has done the last couple of years, where they show glimmers, and then of course they do what they did there. I thought Maryland looked like the 3rd or 4th best team in the Big Ten in recent weeks, and then all of a sudden they lose to Illinois, who looked absolutely atrocious week after week. Very, very unusual to see that happen. Most of the league was really not too shocking yesterday. No, most of the play, most of the games outside the Purdue game. Purdue game was not shocking either. Yeah, so Mohel 93 says Purdue can play in a bowl game, but the margin for mistakes is gone. Absolutely. There's literally no more room for a half to be bad. You have to jump on teams, which that's been a tough order. This year, this team does not start quickly. And so I don't think Purdue can take a half off. If you take a half off, let's look back to some of the games early in the season where Purdue was playing a team that was more evenly matched, but they gave them a running start, and you have to fight and claw to get back into the game. I don't think Purdue can do that. So when they play Nebraska, they better be ready to play from the get-go, especially at Nebraska, where it's usually a very, very good crowd, and they'll be all over Purdue as Purdue travels. So Ted Berkey says players also feel pride going into bowl games. Yeah, I agree. I think that stuff matters. We are in a different era, though. That's one thing. We are in a different era. It's good for the program. I think Walters really wanted Purdue to make a bowl game this year, but I think the bigger picture, it's absolutely important for Purdue to get to the bowl game. Not essential for the long success of the program, but it would be gratefully helpful. It would be a very big positive for this team to make a bowl. Let's see. Jim Garfinkel says Bennett Meredith actually ran the RPO, I guess, more smoothly than Card, but Card is better than he's shown. I think if we see a lot of Bennett Meredith, we're going to see how much we really need Card at quarterback. That's my opinion. So, but that's about all I got. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm at 14 minutes, and I think that's a pretty good length to talk about what happened this week in Ross-Ade Stadium. Tune in, though. Monday night, we'll have a little bit of conversation. Last week, we didn't have much to talk about looking ahead to Ohio State because we kind of thought this would happen. This week, we'll be talking about maybe the bye week ahead. I don't know if we'll have a Handsome Hour during the bye week, but we'll try to have some programming. But definitely tune in 9 p.m. on Monday. I'll still be here in SEC country. Hopefully my audio will and my Wi-Fi and all that will do its job and allow me to record 9 p.m. Monday night Handsome Hour. Thanks to all you who tuned in live and those of you who are listening on delay as well. And hope to see you. Yeah, Ted Bergen says we can talk Iowa football. Yeah, Anish is always up for talking Iowa football, and he's always up for that. We can talk. Honestly, we could talk greater college football. As you know, we love the game. That's our favorite sport. So there's plenty to talk about this time of year. And there were some games. I'll tell you, last night I stayed up till 2 a.m. with my brothers and my dad, watching some pretty incredible football from non-Power 5 teams. There's always stuff to talk about, and this time of year is it's fun regardless. It's just more fun when Purdue's actually a story and relevant, and they are not going to be relevant, at least for a couple weeks, to anybody in the nation, unless they pull off the impossible and beat Michigan in a couple weeks, in 3 weeks. So Mohill says, I want a 12-1 Iowa team in the playoff, and I think Anish does not want that. But like I said, I think a 10-win Iowa team is very possible, and I still think that's very possible, in spite of the fact that Iowa is not a very good team. So that's, let's see. Yeah, that Washington-Oregon game was awesome. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this at the Handsome Hour. I'm not going to go too much further in this, but we will talk about it in the Handsome Hour. There's plenty to talk about. My favorite quarterback in the nation right now, Michael Penix, looks very, very good. He's came up huge again in the Washington-Oregon game to thrust Washington to victory. So that's something that we can talk about. So yeah, I'm with you, Jim. Great seeing you guys live, and hope to see you guys tomorrow night, 9 p.m. same channel for the Handsome Hour. God bless you. Hammer down. Talk to you soon. See ya.